What's going on, guys? Welcome back to BlackTideTV. In today's video, some Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered for you. Maybe not the most entertaining gameplay. About halfway through, a lot of people left, and then eventually more people joined towards the end of the game. We were going off at the beginning of this game, so that's probably why. I've also put myself at a severe disadvantage despite doing pretty good by using Exclusion Zone on one of the darkest maps in the entire game, Wet Work, but I was requested a little while back to include more Exclusion Zone camouflage in my Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered videos, so I thought, hey, what the hell, why not? Using the M4 carbine, my favorite weapon in the game, certainly not one of the better weapons in Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered, but I think I can use it to the point where it can be very effective, and I can compete with players using like the M16 and the DLC weapons. But that's probably the first thing I'd like to bring up in today's video, and that is the DLC weapons are pretty overpowered at this point. Like, you have to use certain weapons. You either have to be very comfortable with the weapons that you're using, or you're using overpowered weapons like the M16, AK-47, or you're just using DLC at this point. Because the way that they've made the DLC weapons, they haven't really adjusted any of the weapons since they've been added to Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered. All of the base weapons from Call of Duty 4, they weren't really touched. They were never adjusted in this game, especially when they started adding DLC, when they started mixing up the formula from the original game. It was thought, hey, they're going to go ahead, they're going to change up these base weapons, they're going to change up the base perks, and they're going to make everything a little bit more balanced, because Call of Duty 4, while being a great game, wasn't exactly well renowned for its super balanced playstyle. Everyone used the M16, it was probably the best weapon in the game, and so that's just kind of what people used. And they just never really adjusted anything. And then when they added in the DLC weapons on top of that, the DLC weapons were so powerful that pretty much every DLC weapon, apart from maybe 2 or 3 that was added in, is on the par of the M16. So instead of making them underpowered or overpowered, they kind of just put them in the game at the M16 level and just said, here, go have fun, which wasn't really the right way to add in weapons. So a lot of people are using DLC recently, and I just want to go back and feel like that classic nostalgic playstyle of using the base weapons. I tried to use weapons like the P90 and the MP5. The MP5 is a pretty powerful weapon, but it doesn't compete with things like the Mac 11. It doesn't compete with any of the DLC, especially the newer DLC like the Lynx or the BOS 14, some of those new assault rifles. Those things are pretty powerful, and it just goes to show that they didn't really know what they were doing when they were adding in DLC to Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered. That is the first of a couple different topics that I'd like to bring up in today's video. We're looking at who or what killed Modern Warfare Remastered today. I made a video recently where I talked about, well, I basically asked the question. I said, is it maybe time that we say goodbye to Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered, because we're getting to that point in its lifespan where more people are starting to go away from Modern Warfare Remastered than there are people coming to the game. They stopped updating the game. There is no Halloween special event, so it looks like the support for this game is completely dropped off, and that's another one of my topics for who or what killed Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered. The devs are very much to blame, because Raven Software was pulled off of this game to go work on a game mode for Call of Duty World War II. They're working on the War game mode for Call of Duty World War II. That's one little tiny game mode in multiplayer. Maybe it's not tiny because it's probably the biggest game mode that's ever been added to a Call of Duty game outside of zombies and other extra activities that you can do in these games, but it's probably the biggest mode to be added to multiplayer in quite some time. So it's not really small, but to pull an entire development team, an entire studio off of this game to go work on one little game mode for Sledgehammer, truth be told, Sledgehammer is a relatively new studio to be working with Activision on Call of Duty games. This is only going to be their second game that they've ever made in full for Activision. The second Call of Duty game. Their first was Advanced Warfare, which a lot of people had a really big love-hate relationship with. I kind of enjoyed the game, but a lot of people are looking back on that game now with kind of rose-tinted glass. Like, everyone was looking at it with rose-tinted glasses at the time. They're looking back and they've taken off the rose-tinted glasses and they're like, holy shit, Advanced Warfare was the beginning of the end for Call of Duty. This was when boots on the ground was no longer a thing, and this is what started it all, and the snowball effect. And a lot of people are saying Advanced Warfare wasn't that great of a game. I think it was the best of the space age Call of Duty games, but even still, it wasn't that great. It's not in my top Call of Duty games by far. So To be saying that World War II is the second game that Sledgehammer Games has made after Advanced Warfare, and you're pulling off an entire studio who's actually made a fairly decent game or fairly decent remake to work on one little game mode for them, it's just questionable. So drop in development support definitely helped in the killing of Modern Warfare Remastered. There's no more extra DLC. They're not adding in any more supply drop content. Maybe they might do. Maybe they might add in one extra set of DLC content, maybe right when World War II comes out, but I really think that the DLC for this game is dead. You bet your ass will be making a video if there is DLC, but I'm like 98% sure the DLC for Modern Warfare Remastered is dead, and that doesn't help for a game's longevity in the long run. There's no more new events, there's no new updates, there's no new game modes being added to the game. Even Black Ops 3 is still getting new game modes. They're still getting weekly game modes where they can do different things, and they're still getting events like double XP and whatever. I can't even remember the last time we had double XP in Modern Warfare Remastered. Modern Warfare Remastered was very much an experimental Call of Duty. This is a Call of Duty game where it started out as an add-on, and then they kind of shifted the entire process of Modern Warfare Remastered. They made it into like this cash cow. All of a sudden, it was all about supply drops, and while the supply drop system in Modern Warfare Remastered was the best, it was just a big cash cow. That's all they cared about for Modern Warfare Remastered. They loaded this game with so many camouflages you couldn't even count. At the beginning, I was doing first like camos, showing you guys some of the camouflages, and then they just started adding more and more and more. I think it's a toss-up depending on like Infinite Warfare, Modern Warfare Remastered, which game has more camouflage patterns, which game has more items overall. It's honestly a toss-up. Modern Warfare Remastered might have the most in-game supply drop items in a Call of Duty ever. There are a ton of items in this game, and it goes without saying that those items and Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered in general fell into that same sort of theme that we've seen with all of these supply drop Call of Duty games, where at the beginning, it was pretty cool, and there was a lot of really cool camouflages, really cool characters, everything made sense, and then we got weapons, and then those weapons kind of screwed up the entire game. They put everything at like a question, like, okay, what else is possible here? And then they got wacky, and they started adding in really stupid looking kits and camos and people. There are people now that have blood all over them, and people that are covered in mud, and people that are like, there's one guy that's like a half werewolf guy, and they just started adding in goofy shit. There's the noob. I think it was the noob was the point when I was like, okay, this is so stupid. I'm kind of over the supply drops now. The noob guy with all the face paint on, and it says like noob across his forehead, and he's got like a mustache painted on, and there was like a whole noob set with like a noob gun, like a kit and a noob camo, and it was just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, at first, the kits, the camos, everything made everything look really cool, and everything was like, it suited, and all the characters were just regular people, and then we started getting into the goofy stuff, and that kind of just ruined the supply drop system, which was already a supply drop system, so I mean, it wasn't great to begin with, but that definitely didn't help. You see, the problem with Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered is that it seems it was always designed to fail. As I mentioned briefly earlier, this is just a big science experiment for Activision and the developers of Call of Duty. The science experiment is that this game originated as an add-on DLC for a special version of Infinite Warfare, and then they decided, we can make a couple bucks off this game if we start putting in microtransactions, so they did that. And then they were like, oh, well, maybe we'll release the full game. Oh, maybe we'll release some DLC, and then let's just pack the thing with supply drops, and let's throw in all of the questionable tactics that we've had about Call of Duty over the last few years. All the things that we wanted to try, but we were too nervous because the game has always been so serious for certain players. Modern Warfare Remastered is the farthest thing from serious as of now, with all of the crazy game modes they've been adding in. I know the party game modes were very, very popular when they were added. I'm a huge fan of the slasher game mode. Love that game mode for a little while, and then it kind of just got old. Prop Hunt was the most popular game mode in like any Call of Duty game in however many years. It was like the biggest game mode ever for like the first 2 weekends during Weekend Warfare. That was their scapegoat for their special game modes, that they could try these game modes that they wouldn't actually consider putting in a real Call of Duty game in this game, and we'll see how it works out. And I don't think it really did work out. Yes, they were pretty popular at the time, but if you look at those numbers now, while they're still pretty large, they're not anywhere near what they used to be. It was a gimmick. They tried their gimmicks in this game. They tried to kind of get you with these funky, crazy game modes that you wouldn't expect to see in any other Call of Duty game, and that's how they tried to use this Call of Duty as an experiment to try these things. So it was never really considered a serious Call of Duty game, and that was definitely a detriment as well, because I don't know about you guys, but I was never a fan of Prop Hunt. From day one, I was like, this game mode is kind of lame. I just want to go back to the actual hardcore Call of Duty stuff, because that's what Modern Warfare Remastered was at the beginning. Infinite Warfare seemed like the goofy one to a lot of people. It's the flying around jetpack one, but here's Modern Warfare Remastered, which you can play if you're still a hardcore classic Call of Duty fan. Oh, but here's all these crazy, stupid, wacky game modes that are going to completely take the focus out of the game. So I don't think the party game modes worked too well. I think they worked in some capacity, but we definitely need like a party mode like playlist or something in future Call of Duty games. And again, that's just what they use this for. It's a science experiment. On top of that, we had the incredible competition with Infinite Warfare, which I just briefly mentioned again. Infinite Warfare and Modern Warfare Remastered have been vying for your attention this whole year long. At the beginning of the year, I was super excited because I thought, okay, we've got 2 different Call of Duty games to play this year. This is going to be perfect. The future fans can play the Infinite Warfare, whereas people that like the classic Call of Duty can play Modern Warfare Remastered. Unfortunately, it didn't work out like that, and instead, we've got basically 2 games trying to grab your attention as much as possible. They both put up their supply drop deals at the same time. They both put up double XP, double crypto keys, all at the same time. They both are doing all of these things at the same time, like, no, play our game, no, play our game. They're competing with themselves, which wasn't really smart. I thought it was going to be a great idea to have 2 Call of Duty games, double the Call of Duty, and people can split off and play their own thing, but then it was just a big competition. And now with World War II, they're herding us all in like cattle. They're like, okay, well, we're cutting off the support for for Modern Warfare Remastered. We're cutting off the support for Black Ops 3 after however many years, because people were still playing that as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if they cut the support for Infinite Warfare shortly, because they want everyone back on the same Call of Duty title again. Call of Duty World War II isn't just a reset for how we're playing the game by getting us back to boots on the ground. It's a reset for the franchise. It's a soft reboot, and they want everyone to come back to the yearly Call of Duty release. So they're cutting off support for everything so that we go play World War II, which is really what they should have done for Infinite Warfare if they wanted it to succeed. They shouldn't have given us Modern Warfare Remastered, but here we are. So there's a bunch of issues that we could go over all day long for why Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered failed. There's drop in developer support, no further DLC, no supply drops, anything like that. I think that's number 1. We've got the unfair weapon balance and people just not really caring about the DLC. We've got how it's just a huge cash cow and all they wanted to do with this game was make money. It was an experiment. It's seen as almost a joke because of these party game modes, but I'd love to hear from you guys. Why do you think Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered failed? There are so many options here. What did you like about the game? What did you not like so much about the game? Let me know in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed today's video. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. All of my links for social are in the description. I'll try to get that supply drop opening out for you guys tomorrow or maybe the next day. Until then, I'll catch you guys on the next one.